welcome to Achievement Hunters. Uh, I am one of your hosts, Scott, and this is Hunter. We are the Achievement Hunters. Today we are looking at this. Today in the show, before we get talk about our sponsors, we're going to talk about all the different topics we're going to talk about today. Ooh, sorry about that. I couldn't really talk today. So Nintendo Switch 2, the Electric Boogaloo. What else are we going to talk about today, Hunter?
By the looks of it, we've got something about the expansion to some games with the DLC and whatnot. The potential delays of the pre-orders, the some accessories like the Switch camera, the Mario Kart World Direct tomorrow, some other things about the Switch 2 editions, and stuff like Nintendo Switch Online, NSO, and kind of where it's going.
Nvidia also is
Oh,
has
and
an
that too.
abysmal Nvidia. In other news that is not Nintendo, Nvidia says release reviews when you get the product. Having a abysmal launch of their new but budget oriented cards. And Nvidia open sources PhysX, and China creates a new graphics standard. We'll get right into that right as we talk after we talk about our sponsors today. Today, our stream is sponsored by, well, unfortunately, no one. So what we are going to do is we are going to shout out an amazing artist who and friend of the show who is currently my model rigger, Splat Art Rat. So I'm gonna put the link to her stuff down below, and we will get right into the show. Let me turn on the music real quick, if my touchpad will work. There you go, twitch.tv/SplatArtRat. Let me make sure the link's correct. Yep, perfect. There's her Twitch. Anyways, just that's her Twitch. Anyways, let us go over. Let me start the music and let us go over the different things we have today. Make sure the music is a good level. Hold on, I'm gonna decrease it a little bit on my side. All right. Okay. So, starting off with Nintendo news. Nintendo Switch 2, this is more of a continuation of what we talked about last week. So, last week we talked about the pricing, everything that's going on, the kind of cool camera that showed up. But because Nintendo was being Nintendo, we had to learn all this stuff in a very roundabout way. So, you know what? I'm going to make a revision to what we said last week. Last week we gave our um our like grading on the grading on the direct itself, giving them a high score. You know what? I'm gonna deduct 2 to 3 points from that. Was it like 8 or 9 that I gave? I have to give the
I believe
direct a
so.
5. I'm now giving the direct a 5. I am deducting 2 or 3 points from the score just because of the lack of information that they gave out in the confusing information. If your the purpose of a presentation is to give out information and you don't actually give out the information, then I think your presentation just by definition is a failure.
That's fair. Yes, that's really fair, honestly. I think
Which
the
is
exact same
sad
thing.
because it was a really cool direct. It was an amazing direct. But the problem is that they took anything that could be possibly controversial and took it out of the direct. In which, unfortunately, there was a lot of controversial decisions with this console. So, yeah. So that's one of the things I had to correct from last time. Also, another thing that was super cool was Hori um, had shown off unofficially their camera, their new camera for the Switch 2. But the thing about the Switch 2 camera that Hori's making, it is a 480p camera, whereas the actual Nintendo first party one is 1080p. I was shocked when I heard that it was a 480p camera. I didn't even know they still made those.
Honestly, same.
Like, who the heck is making 480p cameras? You can get a 1440p camera for $50. 1440p to 4K webcam for $50. And this is what it is. So I think that this is rough. That's rough. I can't believe we have to deal with that. Which is sad because that was just such a cool product. I was like, it was so Nintendo that you couldn't help but love it. You know? Oh, a piranha plant.
Yeah.
A piranha plant is the camera. You close its mouth to be a privacy shutter. That's fun. That's unique. That's Nintendo. And honestly, I just gotta say, the piranha plant, I don't know. It just feels like we're starting to get more and more questionable decisions from this console. And then it actually brought me back to something, and this wasn't in the doc, but I was going to say that seemed weird, and this was something that has been bugging me for actual years at this point, honestly. Where is Doug Bowser? Like, where is he?
That's a good point.
Doug Bowser has not been in a Nintendo Direct except for the one where he made his first appearance. The only time Doug Bowser shows up in anything is like very small scale interviews or the Game Awards. And we all know the Game Awards doesn't show any Nintendo stuff. That was another thing that just also makes me wonder, was that this is one of the things that gets my head reeling, is I wonder if Joker, of being the DLC fighter, first DLC fighter, was that Reggie pulling some strings to get that announced at the Game Awards? Because we haven't seen anything like that since Reggie left.
That's a good point. One thing I kind of liked about Reggie a lot more than Doug is Reggie, he was a lot more hands-on with like Nintendo, especially with the community and stuff, because like you remember all the shorts and stuff they would do on the YouTube channel and like before the directs.
Yeah, that was another thing that was super cool about Iwata as well.
Oh yeah.
Iwata, and before his passing, was Iwata and Reggie were very public facing, to the point where there was actual face of the company. Nowadays, it feels like there's no face to the company anymore. It's an impersonal company, which is sad because that was what Nintendo was based on, was being personal, hands-on. I mean, Nintendo Labo. even which I wonder what it feels like. There might be just some things that is very weird at the company. Um, but yeah, that's some of the stuff I wanted to bring up about the Nintendo thing. Um, uh, why is it that we like when we schedule our stuff, it's always like the day before something happens, and so we have to push it back. I almost like talk to you about pushing um, this direct back a day just because of the stupid Mario Kart World Direct.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, I really wanted to bring that up because did Nintendo forget their audience? Or has their audience forgotten old Nintendo? So the thing is that now that Nintendo Switch is everyone, it's like you've truly lost that personal experience that Nintendo used to have back in the Wii U days. But unfortunately, that just wasn't profitable. So unfortunately, Nintendo is just kind of sold out, I think. Which is so sad because they had so much momentum going into this direct. Like the price of everything. But once we got to price of not just the console, which was a little more expensive than we wanted, but doable, reasonable even. But the game price being $80 really hurt. And then Doug Bowser actually did a response. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. So Doug Bowser has addressed concerns about the pricing. He explained that the $80 price point for the launch title Mario Kart World is part of Nintendo's variable pricing strategy, aka A/B price testing, which has always been part of game development. Hold on 1 second. Alright. But yeah, it's always been product product price testing. And the big thing about this is that there's never been really sales for Nintendo games. The lowest I've seen Nintendo games has been like $30. So,
Yeah.
and then
Sorry, what?
the problem is that when talking about the higher prices, Bowser is so out of touch that he was like, "Oh, they're complaining about the price of the console," when we were talking about the prices of games. So the increase to $80, because that's the thing, is he didn't respond to the price of the game price criticism. He responded to the console price, which means he really just didn't understand what people were talking about initially, and it took him a week to come up with another vetted response to that price. And so it feels sanitized. It feels like safe wording, safe messaging. We know what we're doing. You're just the petty little gamers who will buy our stuff anyways. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Nintendo. But that's what led to the Wii U.
Yeah.
You played it too safe.
Honestly,
You played it too safe on. Actually, no. I wouldn't say this is a Wii U. This is a GameCube. Because the problem is that I don't know. I wouldn't even consider this a GameCube. This is so weird because this hasn't been Nintendo for a this hasn't been the Nintendo strategy for a long time. Maybe I don't even know. I would say maybe the SNES because like the SNES was the last time it was just a kind of a power upgrade without a really interesting like evolution, but it just feels so weird. I don't even
I
know how to
feel like
describe this situation because this whole situation feels both Nintendo and yet not Nintendo at all.
yeah.
So, another thing I wanted to point out is Switch 2 expansions are now a part of NSO. So, I think, and I wanted to bring this up because it appears that Nintendo is going all in on digital games. That's why they have the game vouchers. Not the game vouchers, what do you call it? Your digital games are now being the digital game cards that they talked about in the Switch 1 Direct.
All right. Yeah.
You had that. You also have Nintendo trying to appease the physical collectors while also getting them to come to digital by doing the what is it? The game license card.
No, I feel like I kind of remember that, but I can't quite remember what exactly it was.
So what they're trying to do is they're doing what Xbox and PlayStation does, where it's like you're given a disc or something, but what it does, it just causes a download to occur.
Ah,
Which
you.
I kind of like that, because what it's doing is it's getting rid of the Switch 1 fiascos where it was like you had certain stuff on the card and certain stuff that was a download code. It was just it didn't actually have a cartridge in the box. It was just a thing with a code on the inside. So they're getting rid of that and putting an actual cartridge in, but it's a cartridge with very minimal space that's only to access a license code. But because it's like that, you can also share that thing with friends. You can take that essentially license card. I'm sorry for forgetting the name of it, and you can take that to your friends. It's not like a digital code. There is a physicality, actual legitimate physicality to it, which I do like. So I'm gonna give props to Nintendo there. I'm glad that they came up with that workaround to get rid of. They actually listened to that feedback. However,
That's actually a pretty.
yeah. And Nintendo has said that they will be putting all their stuff on the card. That there will not be digital like download stuff. Any of these like Switch 2 editions, upgrades, or anything else. Any of these games will be game license card only. So this is more of appeasing the consumers while also appeasing the third-party developers. However, why are the games that are on this doing this? Some of the smallest games ever. Why is Bravely Default a game license card when Cyberpunk is on the cartridge? Why is a 3DS remaster a license, but Cyberpunk on the actual card? That cartridge. That's
Honestly, just kind of sad. Honestly,
I think it's because I'm pretty sure Bravely Default's by Square, and Square's been Square. Square Enix has been Square. They are actually living up to their name. Um, so one of the things I do want to go over is, was that all the Nintendo stuff? Let me look at the doc real quick. See, and this is why we have the Google Doc to keep us on track. So Mario Kart World Direct tomorrow. I think this will be what determines whether I'm getting a Switch 2 at launch or not. Because I can tell you right now, if I'm getting a Switch 2 at launch, I'm getting the Mario Kart World bundle. Because it's Mario Kart. Of course, it's the game you would get for a Nintendo. It's like the big franchise you would get a Nintendo console for.
it's kind of the most kind of the most obvious
Mario,
pack-in title.
Yeah, 3D Mario, Mario Kart, and Smash Brothers. Which, and this was, so yeah, we're gonna get to Smash Brothers. I have another thing to talk about Smash Brothers. So the reason I think they need to show off something huge tomorrow. The direct is supposed to be 15 minutes long, and is supposed to show a bunch of info about the title. They need to make this a huge breakthrough for the series, which it looks like it is, but they need to justify that $80 out the wazoo.
They really do. It's got to be more than just playable Piantas and Cataquacks.
And playable Moo Moo Meadows.
That too. Freaking
I want to play. I want to play as the Moo Moos. My thing is that I am uniquely positioned in the fact that I am a huge Nintendo fan, but not have a Nintendo Switch. And I have a couple Nintendo Switch games because I got them on sale because it was below $30, which is like never happens in Nintendo games, so of course I would get them. But yeah, the fact is that I'm uniquely positioned in that realm that I don't have a Switch console. So I would like the opportunity to get this because I don't want to get the original Switch because it's 8 years old at this point. And the new stuff is already here. Why would I do that when I can have for the first time a midnight? And that was another thing, is that I personally have never done a midnight release of a console before. I've never been to one of those midnight launches. I really want to do it at least once in my life, and I feel like this would be a really cool one to go to. Just to,
I honestly might maybe do that too.
You only live once. My thing is that if, but they need to sell me. They need to show me that this game is as big as both the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the Mario Kart 8 Booster Pass. Because that right there is $85. Because it's $25 for the Booster Pass and then $50-$60 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So like I said, so Doug over here digging his own grave by saying, "Oh, we're test doing variable pricing based on how much it's worth." If you think you know how much it's worth, we can tell you how much we think it's worth to us. We are going to be buying a whole new console for this game, as or going to be upgrading from a previous console. This will be huge. You need to sell this to us hard. This will be what gets us to buy this console. This, the other game that I am currently interested in, that I'm going to be buying this game for, this console for, is actually Metroid Prime 4. 4K 60 Metroid Prime is what it is, or 1080p 120 FPS. That's gonna be huge. But if I'm gonna be paying the prices for these Switch 2 games, you have to sell it to us, Nintendo. This Direct for Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart World will be determined what happens. So, we need to NSO. So Nintendo Switch Online. So I want to cover Nintendo Switch Online for a second here, because Nintendo Switch Online is going to be juicy with the new console. So currently with Nintendo Switch Online, you get a huge library of NES games, SNES games, and on the online functionality for all of your Nintendo games, as well as Game Boy. I don't know if it's Game Boy and Game Boy Color, but I know Game Boy. Yeah, I think it's Game Boy and Game Boy Color, and Game Boy and Game Boy Color games for $20 a month. For the NSO Plus expansion pack, you get DLC to a whole bunch of games, all of the base stuff. You then also get Sega Genesis, N64, and Game Boy Advance games, and you with the Switch 2, you will also be getting GameCube games. Do you think they will increase the price for the expansion pack? Or introduce another tier for Switch 2 edition?
Honestly, I think
at this point, the expansion pack is just getting too. It's getting. It feels like the Nintendo. The problem why I have doubts is because it's starting to become too good of a deal. Remember, you can upgrade all of your Switch 1 $60 games to that upgrade path, all those $10 expansions that, like Breath of the Wild to the Switch 2 Breath of the Wild. That's all included in the Nintendo Switch Online. You have the booster course. You also get the Mario Kart booster course pack, a couple of other DLCs, like, was it Animal Crossing as well? You have all these DLCs that are included in this NSO expansion pack. And then they just added GameCube but previously they added Sega Genesis. I think we can see an NSO, another tier of NSO coming. Or they're going to start taking stuff out of the expansion pack. I think we're gonna see NSO, which is just gonna be online functionality. I think we're gonna see Nintendo Switch Online, like, core, which will be Nintendo Switch Online plus the games Then we're gonna see Nintendo Switch Online retro version, which will be just the retro games and the Switch 2 editions or something like that. No, actually, you know what? No, it'll just be all of the retro consoles, and then we will see a Nintendo Switch Online like Ultimate version, which will have all of your DLCs, all of your Switch 2 editions, all of that stuff. Because the problem is that the expansion they're putting too much value on the NSO expansion pack for $50 a month. It's becoming the retro Game Pass, essentially. It's getting too good. So just like how Xbox started charging a bit more for Game Pass, I think we're gonna start seeing that. I think we're gonna see a jump from $50 a month to 60 or $70. Sorry, $50 a year to maybe 60 or $70 a year.
Yeah.
Do you think you could see that in the future?
Maybe. I honestly hope they maybe just go the separate tiers route. Cause like, I really hope they don't like force everyone to like start paying more.
Yeah, no. The problem is that I nowadays the base, it's weird. Like, no, I don't think anyone. If you have a Nintendo Switch, I think you will be paying for NSO because it's only $20 a year and you get all the online functionality and all those retro games. If you have a Nintendo Switch, the base Switch Online is too good of a deal. That's why I'm so like the expansion pack is a pretty good deal, and then the base Nintendo Switch Online is an amazing deal. And you know what they say about deals too good to be true? They're too good to be true. It means they're gonna go away. So yeah. I'm just sad that that's probably what's gonna happen. Hold on, just move my camera closer. Yeah, okay, there we go. Anyways, where's the dock? Oh, and so one last thing on Nintendo. Before we close out the Nintendo segment, a long segment, but an important one nonetheless. Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers, Smash Brothers, Smash Brothers. How have you noticed? There has not been a peep, a whisper, an iota of Super Smash Brothers in any of the marketing. No, nothing about how it upgrades, nothing about how it's gonna function. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has been quiet. So I wonder what is it. So I am curious for when the Switch 2 launches and what is going on with Smash Brothers Ultimate, you know? What do you think why do you think they might be like silent?
It may be either because they're not focusing on the series right now, because Ultimate just ended on such a high note, or they're maybe just trying to think of ways to like top it.
Yes, but it's like you'd think they just announce like, oh, you can now play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in 4K 60 or whatever, but they haven't shown like anything, which is so weird. I mean, you're gonna show how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is backwards compatible, but not Smash? It just feels weird, man. And I'll tell you what, I think there's some, and I'll tell you the reason. I think there's some weird licensing issue. I don't know how or why or what, but there's gotta be something going on with Smash Ultimate's like legal thing. I think Smash will work great at Switch 2. I think there'll probably going to be some form of Switch update or something for it, or it'll. But for some reason, they can't announce it or show it off. It's weird. I mean, you're gonna show off, was it Kirby and the Forgotten Land? That came out 4 years, like 3 or 4 years ago. But you can't show Smash Ultimate?
Yeah.
It's just, something is fishy about Smash here. Something's just really fishy. Like, it's just one of those things that it's like, I don't get it. I don't know why it's doing that, and I just don't get it. It feels so weird. Anyways, I think that's enough of the Nintendo Switch 2 for now. In total, in conclusion for now, Nintendo, you might have a Boogaloo if you don't act and backpedal fast. Alright. So I wanted to interrupt the sort of news or thing with a little bit of discussion. So, question. So my question for you is, what sort of meals have you like made made this week that you were proud of?
I don't really make anything. I mainly just eat out because I don't really have the time. But I've been getting a little bit more like McDonald's, but mainly just for the Minecraft meal. So they're trying to get the collectibles.
Yeah. I would say the one meal that a meal I really liked this past 2 weeks was the what's it called? It just was a potato soup I had, mostly just because I'm getting over a sickness and and soup is yummy. All right. What games have you played over the last 2 weeks? I will be honest. I have played nothing.
I've mainly been. Sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
I've mainly been playing a lot of Minecraft, mainly because like the new drop came out, and I've also been playing some older versions of the game, like the PlayStation Vita edition.
Yeah, you've been talking about that. What are some interesting differences between like the Vita and the newest versions of Minecraft that you've noticed?
Well, the Vita, the last version it got was the aquatic update. So anything beyond the aquatic update is just not there.
Let me see. What update was the aquatic?
1.14, I think.
14. Let me see. Java Edition 1.13 or Bedrock Edition 1.4, 1.5. Jeez. Dang, that was a long time ago, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the reason I was interested is because that was such an old version of Minecraft. That was right around the time that I personally kind of loved Minecraft the most. Was like 112, 113 were some of my the versions of Minecraft I'm really the most nostalgic for.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Um, but so I was just wondering, because you've been playing the two different versions, how um how has anything about Minecraft recent versions um what kind of stuff have you liked about the more recent versions of Minecraft compared to the older versions and vice versa?
I really liked the emphasis more on just like quality of life stuff and just kind of more little smaller things like ambient noises, new mob variants, just stuff like that.
And you're, yeah, talking about the most recent ones. Yeah. Um, I can see that. I just feel like kind of 1.12, it kind of, or 1.13, it kind of peaked because every it felt less. What's the word? Kind of like less bloated. So I just wanted to see, since you've been actually playing the two versions back to back, whereas I haven't played 112, 113 in years, is that nostalgia or is it actually feel less bloated?
Like
Because
the
it might
newest
be.
updates.
What?
You mean like the newest updates if they feel bloated or not?
Yeah. I'm just seeing between 113 to what are we on now? 122, 121?
I think so.
121, yeah. So I'm curious on how what are some stuff that you feel like has been changed for the better and which stuff has changed for the worse? Like, give me some details.
I feel like progression has gotten an overall increase, mainly due to like trial chambers and just other ways to like get materials without having to go caving.
Mm,
Well, I guess it's not really fair to say for the trial chambers because those are underground, but like it's easier to get stuff without having to like strip mine, which I really like because strip mining
that makes
it
sense.
gets really boring after a while,
It
and
does.
I
It
prefer
does.
to
No.
explore.
Yeah, no. That I like that. And I think that was a huge part from especially the Caves and Cliffs 2 updates.
Yeah.
Um yeah. Is there any parts feel are worse with the newer updates, or do you just think it's a overall improvement all across the board?
Um, I think
I'm just saying, is there
everything
any
is.
reason to go back to these older versions, or should we just be sticking with the newer versions?
Um, I think only going back to the older versions, kind of like the legacy console versions. Um, only if you're really like interested in it, because like there's really no reason to go back, because the current versions we have are like objectively better because they're just more content and stuff, and they've just consistently been getting updated, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But like if you didn't get to grow up with the legacy editions and like have exclusively just been playing Bedrock or Java and you want to go back and see it, I think that's completely valid.
Gotcha. Alright, so on to the next topic. NVIDIA open sources physics engine code, including the GPU kernel code. Physics, back in ye olden times, was a moderately popular middleware used to add complex physics-based interactions to 3D graphics in games and other software applications. Originally developed by the Swiss company Novode X and later acquired by NVIDIA, the technology is primarily designed to run on GeForce GPUs via NVIDIA's proprietary CUDA software API. Unfortunately, in the most recent cards from NVIDIA, the 32-bit versions of physics and the games that run on 32-bit physics middleware just has worse performance than the last generation. So, NVIDIA said, fine, you're complaining about us not being able to do this? You do it yourself. NVIDIA announced recently that the physics engine would become a fully open source project. Developers have released the source code under the permissible BSD3 license, are inviting the community to experiment and tinker. Which is super cool. One of the coolest things about it was the fact that physics had some of the coolest real-time fluid performance. That's super cool. But yeah, physics was properly supported and in like thousands of games. So I felt that I just added that to the doc because I was like, that's super cool. That NVIDIA, greedy NVIDIA, allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
All right, and then GPMI. I put this in the doc because this is a HDMI and DisplayPort alternative. Hold on. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I muted it on OBS. I was trying to get to my muting settings. Alright, there we go. So, the Shenzhen 8K UHD Video Industry Cooperation Alliance, a group made up of more than 50 Chinese companies, just released the specs for a new wired media communication standard called the General Purpose Media Interface, or the GPMI. This standard was developed to support 8K and reduce the number of cables required to stream data and power from one device to another. This GPMI cable comes in two flavors. A Type B cable that seems to have a proprietary connector, and a Type C, which is compatible with USB-C standard. So, because 8K has 4 times the number of pixels of 4K and 16 times more pixels than 1080p, it means that GPMI needs to be built very precisely to carry a lot more data than other current standards. You can't let a single bit, a 0 or 1, be the wrong bit. So, the GPMI Type-C connector is set to have a maximum bandwidth of 96 gigabit and deliver 240 watts of power.
Oh, wow.
This is more than double the 40 gigabit data limit of USB 4 and Thunderbird 4, allowing you to transmit more data on the cable. However, it has the exact same power limit as that of the latest USB Type-C connector using the extended power range standard. But the Type B connector can has a bandwidth of 192 gigabits per second and can deliver up to 480 watts of power. My discussion question is, so are we gonna start powering our PCs with a single USB cable and a power adapter from the wall? We're just gonna have a wall plug that adapts our wall outlet to USB-C, and then we run 480 watts of power from the outlet to our computer to power the thing. For context, guys, 480 watts. Hold on. $480 watts is enough to... Hold on. I need to find my thing. I had a thing saved. Hold on, guys. I'll tell you this. The big subs in, like, cars are normally, like, 400 watts. It means that you can run ginormous subwoofers, car subwoofers, off of USB-C. That's insane. Anyways, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about in the doc. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark, so I'm gonna gonna check the chat and see if anybody has any questions or anything they wanted to talk about today. If you're here in the chat, please go ahead and pop in. Hold on. All right. All right. Anyways, I'm not seeing anyone in the chat. Let me see. What was something else we did? I did this week. Real quick before the end of stream today. It's gonna be a short stream today, guys. It's less than an hour, but I hope we kept you guys entertained. There was something I wanted... Oh! Yes! That was what I was gonna bring up. We have one more topic for today, and that is Gargura is officially graduating. The shark herself is known to have done multiple fake graduation announcements and troll us. However, this one is indeed real, and she has announced that she is graduating on May 1st. I am very sad about this news. She
I'm honestly a little bit sad too.
Was part of that first group of idol VTubers that really took off in the West, and some of that was the help of COVID. But the thing about that's gonna be sad is that whereas rest of the HoloLive gens were kind of building off an already established thing, HoloLive Myth kind of built their niche in the West from scratch. So it's just sad to see them grow. Anything else before we head out for the day?
Uh, not that I can think of.
All right. Take care, gamers. Have a wonderful day, and go achieve more. Bye, guys.
Good night, all.